Marriage Champions. I'm Amy Morgan, the feature writer for the San Antonio Marriage Initiative. I am here today with Ted Cunningham. He is the pastor of Woodland Hills Family Church, a non denominational evangelical church in Branson, Missouri. He's written 4 books, including writing with the late, great Gary Smalley, and he's a popular speaker on the date night comedy tour. Ted, thank you so much for being here.
Well, I've been looking forward to this, so thank you for letting me share a little bit.
Oh, we have too. It's been a time coming, so we're glad you're here. Um, your newest book is A Love That Laughs, which is appropriate for someone who's part of the date night comedy tour. Would you tell us a little bit about your philosophy about marriage and how that fits in?
Yeah, so Ecclesiastes 9:9 has been kind of my mission statement for marriage, and it's the primary reason I travel now. Years ago when I started traveling with Dr. Smalley and speaking at his conferences, I kind of took the topics I was assigned, and he was very gracious to walk alongside all of that with me and help me get into marriage ministry and to develop, speaking and writing and all of that. And so I really took to the part of enjoying life, quality time, laughter, humor, which was a hallmark of Gary Smalley. He used humor in all of his talks, loved to use humor and props. Those were his 2 main things that he used every time he spoke. So for me, laughter comes out of Ecclesiastes 9:9 as well, which says, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life and in your toilsome labor under the sun. And I think a lot of times we get the marriage piece and the toilsome labor piece confused. God did not give me my spouse to be the toilsome labor. The word toilsome there in Ecclesiastes 9 means grueling, means painful, means challenging, providing for a family. Life under the sun can be very difficult. And for me, marriage ministry, if we're not careful, tends to start with and can get bogged down in or focus primarily on marriage is hard, marriage is difficult, marriage is painful, marriage is going to, take a lot of work for you to get to a place where you make it 15, 20, 30 years. And I bring another side to that, I believe. I understand marriages go through difficult seasons and stages, but that doesn't mean that I need to turn my spouse into the grind of life. So my passion with the laughter piece is just helping couples be intentional with enjoying life together, being intentional with it's time to lighten up. It's time not to take yourself so seriously and cut loose a little bit. We're all going to go through difficult seasons and stages of life, but it doesn't mean I have to turn my spouse into a difficult season or stage. I need to see Amy, my wife, as a gift from God to go through difficult seasons and stages with. I tell people all the time, counseling or in seminars or even in date nights, that Jesus is your source, Satan is your enemy. And if you want to experience high levels of marital satisfaction, never treat your spouse like the source or the enemy. Your spouse is your companion through the grind. And you need to see each other as someone you can enjoy life with, even during the most difficult of seasons.
Well, you had talked about that, and I really like that as that companion. And you talked about too embracing the good or the bad about the season. We had talked a little bit about a destination. People were fixated with getting there instead of enjoying the journey.
Yeah. So destination addiction, it's really a term. It's only about 10 years old. A British psychologist coined it. And it simply means you can't experience joy in this season, but it awaits you in the next. So you're just always looking for it. And I think Americans especially can fall for this because every commercial we see on TV that talks about retirement, grind out your job, just get through 30 or 40 years of hard work and you'll enjoy life, down the road. And then all the stress that sets on us. Do we have enough money to enjoy life down the road? Do we have enough money to wait, that long? And I just say, if you're going to wait to enjoy life together, uh, you're really going to waste the seasons that you're in. I believe you can enjoy life in any season or stage, and you shouldn't wait for it. If you're waiting for it in the next season or stage, you'll never have it in this one, because it's just in your mind that it's something that, and it's kind of the grass is greener mentality, like, just wait for that time. So I go for it now. Experience joy now, choose it now, and that's why one of the things I say, what was natural early on in marriage or in dating and engagement as newlyweds. What was natural early on, you have to be intentional with it later on. It wears off and then you just kind of grind through the rest of the years. No, you need to be intentional with what was like breathing early on in the relationship. And if you're intentional with it, it can begin to feel natural again. But you have to choose to go after the quality time, the laughter, the physical touch, speaking words of high value over one another, praising one another in public. Remember how natural it was for you to go home and tell your parents about your boyfriend or your girlfriend? What's to stop you from doing that 20 or 30 years in? To continue to speak words of high value to your spouse and about your spouse to others. No one has to tell a newlywed couple, hey, you should touch more. All right. It's natural. It flows in the relationship. Words of high value, honoring one another, speaking words of high value over each other is like breathing early on. And a lot of couples are like, well, we don't have a new relationship anymore. That's kind of worn off. And we're just now going to grind out life. No, you just need to be intentional with it. Now, it was natural early on. We're going to be intentional now. And if you're intentional with it, it can actually feel natural again.
Oh, that is so great. What difference does that make if you start practicing those principles? What difference have you seen in a marriage?
Yeah, well, it's confirmation bias. So confirmation bias says we make decisions and then we look for the evidence to back them up. So this goes back to destination addiction as well. If you've decided that you can't enjoy the infant or toddler season as a married couple, like we just got to get these kids, to sleep at night. We got to get these kids out of diapers. We got to get these kids off to school. You make the decision. This is just a season we're not supposed to enjoy and a season we're supposed to grind out. But once they go to school, once we get them in kindergarten, then we'll have some time to enjoy each other. If you make that decision that you're not going to enjoy life together, you won't. It's not easy having infants and toddlers. It's not easy, uh, you know, getting up at 2 a.m. to nurse or to give a bottle. That's not easy. No one's saying going without sleep is easy. That's part of the grind of life. But if you choose, hey, we're not going to let our marriage suffer during this season, we're going to enjoy it. That's when you bring in, okay, we got to find time to laugh during the day. We got to find time for quality time. We got to physical touch, that non-sexual touching that just drifts in a marriage. We take for granted the hug goodbye, the kiss on the cheek, the kiss on the forehead, a rub of the back. We take all that. We got to go back to being intentional with that. I'm even so far as intentional as writing down words of high value. If life is so much about everything else going on in this season or stage, we forget to speak the words of high value. So write them down when you're not together. When you come back together, give it to your spouse or speak it out loud to your spouse or speak it out loud to your spouse in front of family and friends. That's the stuff to be intentional with. And it's interesting, the factors and skills that lead to high levels of marital satisfaction work in any season or stage of life. So when we talk about quality time, laughter, physical touch, honor, all of that, it doesn't matter if you've been married 50 years or 5 years. It doesn't matter if you're in your 70s or if you're in your 20s. Those are factors and skills that work for any season or stage of life.
And I know those are some of the things. And thank you for giving us some good reminders. I remember I used to, when my husband was traveling a lot, especially earlier in our marriage, I'd always stick a little note in his toiletries case.
Yeah.
I don't remember to do that as much anymore. And I thank you for that reminder because I need to do that. He appreciated that. And
Well, and even think about that. Couples that are watching that travel. Most businessmen and women I know, travel has its seasons. There are some jobs that it's like 12 months out of the year, but there's a lot of jobs where it's like travel picks up and then it goes
yeah.
back down. Anticipate that. No, hey, I'm going to be on the road a little bit more this fall or this spring. Uh, it doesn't mean honor, like you said, writing it down and putting it on a note needs to slip. I would say Amy and I get quality time when I'm away from her on the road, sometimes even better quality time because we're on the phone where it's more interrupted. It's deeper conversation. When we're in the house together, we can take that for granted and we can be that what ships passing in the night, right? So quality time, laughter, uh, physical touch can be a challenging one when you're traveling, but honor, there's so many of these factors and skills that work even during busy seasons and stages of life. But you need to anticipate those and not let your marriage drift through them.
Well, you had talked about that with the drift, and I think is that when in your book, the fun loving you, enjoying your marriage in the midst of the grind. I know that was something that we talked about was that drift.
Yeah. Yeah. Your marriage is only going to do one of two things. You're either going to choose to enjoy life together or you will drift. No one chooses to drift. No one wakes up and says, hey, today we're going to stop touching. We're going to stop spending time together. We're going to stop laughing. But no one ever decides that. It's just that you're no longer intentional with it. And I view drift like the rumble strips on the highway. Those rumble strips cause us to wake up when we're dozing. And most of us pay attention to the rumble strips. When we hit them and it shakes us, it brings us back into the lane and we're now awake, we're alert. But some people blow right past them.
Yeah.
I mean, and they go off-roading. It doesn't matter where you are in drift. You can make the decision at any moment to turn the car around and begin deciding again. But here's the difference between decision and drift. In decision, I'm living in discovery all the time. I'm living with curiosity and fascination. We're talking a lot about the seasons and stages of life. Make no mistake, the seasons and stages of life change you. I have one marriage ministry colleague. I love how he puts it. He says, over the course of your marriage, you're going to be married to 5 to 7 different people.
You mentioned that.
And it's so true because bills change us, kids change us, jobs change us, our physical health, as our body grows older, it changes. So we go through different seasons and stages. It changes us. But if I'm deciding to enjoy it together, Amy's living in discovery, which means curiosity and fascination. She wants to learn the new me. But if we're in drift and these seasons and stages change us, well, then we live in disillusionment. And this is usually what I hear when I meet with a couple. He's changed. She's changed. This isn't what I signed up for. He's not the same person. She's not the same person. To which I want to say, of course he isn't. Of course she isn't. We change as we go through the grind of life. And Amy and I just celebrated 25 years of marriage.
Oh,
And I would say we enjoy life more now together and raise kids and all. We are wanting in every season and stage to decide, to choose, to live in discovery, not to be disillusioned. Because guess what? As I'm getting closer to 50, I'm going to experience a lot more changes in the next 10, 20 years as kids leave the house. Yeah. And so, I know this can sound cliche, but we believe it's true because of this, the factors and skills and the decision to enjoy life together. We truly believe our best years are ahead of us. If the Lord, gives us another 25 years together, we think that half is going to be better than the first half. You got to choose it. Marital satisfaction is a choice. It's not something you wait for. It's not something you hope for. It's not something you think you'll stumble into or discover at some point down the line. It's something you choose and then you go after it.
I love that. Well, you developed a resource fairly recently to kind of help people, especially get over this hump. A video offering. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's called Helping Couples Win. You can check out the trailer at helpingcoupleswin.com. And it's 24 sessions. And I call them coaching sessions because it's a lot like this. It's me sitting down. It's one-on-one. It's really geared toward going to the individual couple, a couple at a time. Small groups use it. I have a lot of churches where their small groups are using it. And then there are many churches have actually large gatherings every week where they show them. And a lot of times people hear 24 sessions and like, well, what are we getting into? They're like 6 to 11-minute videos. So it's a lot of content, but I break it up because some small groups I hear are going through 2 or 3 sessions each time. Others like the way we break it down because they can just let the night kind of go as it will. It comes with a 54-page workbook that you can download. And so a lot of follow-up questions. And so some small groups will blow through a session and get to the next one and be like, okay, this one is hitting a few of our couples in this season or stage of life. So we're going to stick here a little while longer. I also tried to design it to, keep the husbands engaged and, but to just keep couples wanting to come back to it. You can watch one on the way to a date night, and then have something to talk about. It's a lot like this, though. It's not, there are very heavy sessions in it, but there's also sessions on finding your shared sense of humor, the benefits of laughter in marriage, all the way from anger to intimacy, the language of sex, how to craft a good apology. So we cover a lot of content in those 24 sessions. And then I hear from a lot of couples that they don't go through it in order. They really go through it based on the season or stage of life that they're in. And I love hearing that too. You should customize it, for your marriage. So you can, but it's 24, looking at 24 different factors and skills that lead to high levels of marital satisfaction. That was kind of my COVID pivot. Once all our events canceled in 2020, I had time on my hands. So I created that course.
Well, I think you're not alone. It seemed that just about every ministry has created some new online offerings, and they're great because really they're reaching so many
Yeah.
more people that wouldn't have been reached, and they're reaching people that don't like different ways. They don't like the in-person event, so they're great. How does somebody on ramp? Is it a subscription service? Is it something they? Because we're talking here to our marriage champions, and they're probably frothing at the bit to get their hands
Yeah,
on this.
it's a one-time fee. If a couple goes on and signs up for it, the whole course is $60. But if you want to buy it for your small groups at your church, or I have some pastors that are kind of using it for their counseling. Even when they work with a couple, they send them out and they kind of use it as a guide to let the couples almost do homework and then come back and they can discuss it. So it gives them a framework for that. And so some churches, I don't have the exact breakdown of, but if you buy like 10 of them, it drops down to like $40 or something. So anyway, we tried to make it very reasonable so churches could afford it. And then there's even a license that you can get if you want to, show it to your whole church in a large group setting, each year. Because there's a couple of churches right now that I know just started doing that on like their Wednesday night.
Yeah.
What some call couples boost. So, but I know a lot of small groups, especially marriage small groups, are constantly looking for content to feed into those groups. And so that was we really thought about that as we packaged it and put that workbook together for them.
No, that is so great. Have you had any feedback?
Yeah, we have. I've heard a lot from pastors who are, a lot of times, again, I want to say I understand that marriage can be very challenging and difficult. And sometimes people get on me for not talking enough about that. However, I just want to encourage marriage champions not to start with the message, marriage is hard. We can get to that. But I like to start in Genesis 1 and 2. As God created marriage from the foundations of the earth. Jesus said in Matthew 19, 4-6, when he was asked about divorce and marriage, he said, haven't you read that in the beginning, the creator? I love that because marriage is God's idea. It's at the foundations of the earth. We need to paint this beautiful picture of marriage for couples before we get to Genesis 3. Right? And Genesis 3 is when sin enters the picture. Marriage is difficult. It is challenging. But a lot of us like to start with marriage is hard in Genesis 3 because that's often where we meet couples. Don't overlook the couples in your church who would give their marriage a 6 or a 7 or maybe even an 8 out of 10 for quality. So I created this so that it would hit the couples that were in crisis, yes, but it would also grab the couples who were like, we may be hitting some of those rumble strips and need to get back in the lane and decision. Helping couples win was kind of the in between premarital and crisis to say, hey, there's a lot of couples in the church who are enjoying marriage And this is a way to keep them enjoying marriage. And so that's what I hear back from pastors, that it's hitting the goal of helping couples in that way. So
And it's a little bit it's a longer, it's a little more sustainable than just an event. As we know, events can come and go. They can attract people or not, but this is, 24, you could really be a slow drip, giving somebody something every week just to encourage, give them something to talk about, something to feed on a little bit.
right, exactly. That was the whole point. Yeah.
And they could watch it on their way to a comedy date night. Tell us, what is a comedy date night tour, and what do you do?
Well, the title comedian about 5 years ago, I guess it's been 5 years now. People go, when did you decide to say you were a comedian? I'll be honest with you. I was at an event that hired a comedian, and he's a friend of mine now. But it was a rough night for him. Let's just put it that way. He struggled a little bit, and I'll never forget the pastor walking up to me at the end of the event and said, "Why did we hire a comedian?" And I said, "I didn't tell you." He said, because he goes, because you get the laughs. And so to me, comedy, if you watch comedy, if you study comedy, it's about 3 to 5 laughs per minute.
Hmm.
And here's what I love about comedy. And especially, I get invited to do a lot of different events like fundraisers and corporate parties. I make sure they know, I've been 15, 20 years working with couples and doing conferences. My comedy set is geared toward couples. It really hits couples more than anything. And then behind couples would be, I would call it families. I have a lot of parenting and family comedy as well. But you got to hit that 3 to 5 laughs per minute for me to be. I want at the end of an hour and 15 minutes, you should be sore. Your face should hurt, your stomach should hurt. And so I took the title comedian because I love to deliver on that. Because I believe not only is laughter a good medicine, it helps other medicines go down. And I love to watch a pastor get up after date night comedy and just kind of look down at me and then look out and shake his head and be like, yeah, I know we laughed a lot, but I can't believe how much content was packed into that hour and 15 minutes. And I joke, sometimes I get, booked to do date night comedy from an associate pastor. And I always like to ask them, comedy content. I mean, really, I want your expectation because I want to deliver on that. And sometimes the associate pastor will go, we just want comedy. Just make us laugh for an hour. Content's no big deal. I'm like, okay, great. I get there, but I always have to sit on the front row because I'll sit on the front row when the senior pastor prays. And
Yes.
now I've just been told, just want comedy. And then this is the prayer from the senior pastor. Lord, that we would learn tonight, that
Yeah.
marriage would grow, that lives would be changed, right? And I always like to leave one eye open, look over at the associate pastor, like, you guys ain't on the same page. So you gotta adjust on the fly. But I just love, and it's obviously very clean comedy
Of course.
because I'm a pastor, and it's safe for the whole family. So and if I go to a church on Sunday morning to speak, uh, that's kind of more of a blend
Mhm.
but there's still a lot of laughter because I just believe you're learning so much. Your guard comes down when you're laughing at you know jokes you can relate to, and that's what makes comedy work. There has to be a level of familiarity. If it's too off base and too absurd and too crazy, you can't relate to it. So that's why your favorite comedians are those observational guys and gals that they're just looking around at what's happening to them in life. They make jokes about it, and you sit there. It's a nod of the head, going, "Yep, I get it. It's happened to me too." So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, now it's making me want to go to one. I hope there's one coming this way at some point, because you're whetting my appetite.
yeah,
So
I'm trying. I just did one in. I've had one in New Braunfels, um, outside of Wimberley. I've been to Austin. I'm trying to think, and I've got a couple in Dallas coming up, but I don't know about San Antonio.
yeah, well, we'll have to maybe link to a calendar or something. That would be a great way we could.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
And of course, they can always find you on your website too.
right. And I keep my schedule up to date on the church website, woodhills.org, as well as helping couples win.
Oh, good. Well, that would be very helpful for people to connect with you. Now, I know too, we had talked about your heart for weddings. And I
Mm.
think you were the first person that I've talked to that really just saw the vision of that. So share your heart about weddings. I know you just came back from doing one. So
Yeah, I we flew. I think we did 9,000 miles round trip to do that one. We just got back from. I was invited to Dallas a few years ago to the Leadership Network, and they asked me to talk about my wedding outline and to really just inspire the pastors and church leaders that were going to be gathered with weddings. Here's how I start every wedding. The processional takes place. The bride and her father are standing before me. And I always start by talking to gathered family and friends. We say at our church, and this is Branson, Missouri, so it works in Branson. Find a word picture that works in whatever part of the country you're in. But we say every marriage is a duet in need of great backup singers. And I say, today you are here invited to be a part of this wedding, but the couple has told me they don't want you to just be part of this wedding. They want you to be a part of their marriage. So today at a wedding, of course, Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 4, we rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine. Of course. Okay. But we want you long after today to rejoice, delight, and praise the love of this couple, to be an encouragement to this couple, to help this couple stay on the path to decision, not drift. Or in the music word pictures, we don't want you taking this couple off key,
yeah,
the backup singer, because we all know and have seen couples who have bad backup singers that you need to turn down or mute altogether.
yeah.
I want to be a backup singer that's rejoicing, delighting, and praising the love of a couple and be turned up. So I always love talking to the wedding party at first. And then, I always prompt them at that point. I said at the end, when I say it's according to the, laws of the state of whatever state I'm in, and as a minister of the gospel of Jesus, I now pronounce you husband and wife. I said, you're going to be able to cheer. And I keep the cheers going. And then I said, you may kiss the bride second time, cheer, keep the cheers going. And then it's an honor for me to introduce to you, Mr. and Mrs. Keep the cheers going. I always work with the DJ or whoever's playing. I want fast and upbeat music as they head out. But that's us rejoicing and delighting and praising love. It shouldn't end on that day. It should keep going forward. So you want your church to be known. And I always say this at the end of a date night comedy event or at the end of, a marriage conference or retreat. The reason I'm here speaking this weekend is because this church, you don't have a home church. This church desires to be a great backup singer to your duet. And we should be known. Local churches should be known in the community as, if you want to get married, you want that. Now, it may mean you go to a wedding venue. I get that. But you want that church right there backup singing for you. You want them doing your premarital. You want one of their pastors or, leaders in the church to come and perform the ceremony. And then what's the follow-up after that? Helping couples win or whatever it is. We're going to continue to walk alongside you. I think personally, we can drop the ball on newlyweds. I think we do a great job with premarital, but do we continue to be great backup singers long after the wedding day? So that's kind of my passion behind weddings. Weddings are just a great opportunity to gather everyone, to remind them of the value of marriage and what we're doing there, and then to send them out prepared to continue to help this marriage stay in tune.
You had also mentioned how even just as a church, it's a great outreach because people are coming to your church that may never have stepped foot in there before or
Oh,
any.
yeah, and to the hospitality and the message. I'm not saying weddings are this, but they feel like it to me, like little mini marriage seminars. Like I get 20 minutes. The thing that's sad for me these days, and when I talk to bride and grooms, the weddings have changed a lot, and they just want them fast. They want the ceremony part real fast. And I'll say, how long do you want the ceremony? 15, 20 minutes. 15, 20 minutes. Like that's a lot with all the stuff. Processional, recessional, prayer, message, vows, rings. I mean, that's a lot to pack in.
Little.
Yeah. And so I'm always encouraging them, let's slow this thing down. You're paying so much money. And I know if you can spend an hour and a half, 2 hours taking pictures, we can push it to 30 minutes for a wedding ceremony. And and make the most of the time that we're in and let people walk away going, wow, that church really knows how to tie a knot. I mean, they are strong, they are clear, it's not just a guy up there reading stuff off of a page. It's like they really want this couple to succeed. And it wasn't just about me bringing a gift. They really want me to be a part of helping this couple succeed. So I do. I think it's a great outreach. It allows couple, and I can't tell you how many times someone in the bridal party or some gathered family member or a friend comes up to me afterwards or at the reception and says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And there's an opportunity. They were there to celebrate this wedding, but boy, they were thinking about their own marriage and ways they can become intentional again with what everything that takes place at a wedding is natural. Right? That's the in between engagement and newlywed season. So it's a great opportunity to reach couples in your community and to let singles know, hey, if you're going to get married, this church wants to be a part of the process.
Well, the good thing is that we're moving forward and getting these couples married. And then once
Yep,
they do, they can find some great resources to keep them on the right track.
that's
So
right.
thank you so much, Ted. It was just so great talking to you. I could just feel like we could just go on forever, but I'm going to wrap this up. And if anyone wants to connect with Ted, you can find him at his website, or you can always go through samarriage.org.